I'm still trying to have the most reasonable life I possibly can around making music for a living. It is a very unconventional lifestyle. I've learned how to adjust my mindset in a healthy way. The future looks bright for the band, but I also know that it's probably going to be like this forever. We'll always be kind of climbing towards that next step. It's just the nature of music. So let me give you some backstory. We actually had an album that was finished, complete, in the fall of 2016. And honestly, I was happy with that album. And at the last minute, Eddie shared some really honest thoughts with me about the album. And he said, "This doesn't really sound like you. These songs, whether they're good or whether they're bad, just don't have the same level of honesty and directness that I've come accustomed to with you." I trust his taste, and I'm sure that was hard for him to tell me because I definitely didn't want to hear that. The more distance I have from that conversation, the more I feel very grateful that he shared that with me. A few years ago, I subletted an apartment in Greenpoint, and it was kind of a strange time. A lot was changing for me. I was a few months out of a relationship of mine that had spanned several years and taken on many different iterations, and found myself writing about this relationship and trying to make sense of how things started and how things ended and all the little moments along the way that seemed really important to me now that it was over. I wrote a handful of songs, and those recordings would eventually become Handsome Ghost. Eddie and I decided that we were going to make an album together and try to kind of recapture that innocence that I had felt first writing those songs. I realized that I had more to say on what happened with that relationship a few years ago. The goal was, if you're not over this, if you're still thinking about it and you still want to write about it, then take the time and say what you need to say. Songwriting for me is a really personal experience and almost selfish. I write songs for my own benefit, to try and make sense of my own life. Eddie and I, we were able to really dive in and be as thoughtful as possible in the production and the tones and the parts, and like really get into and analyze what kind of musical statement we were trying to make. Now that the record is complete, I feel a sense of peace in that it's time to just let that rest. And I think getting this album complete will just hopefully be that kind of period or exclamation point, I guess probably closer to a period, on that time of my life. And it's like, hey, okay, we're done. On to the next.